On a recurring basis. So, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Charlie Ray.
Thank you so much. All of that was a lie. I never did this before. I want to thank you for being here. Normally I do a comedy routine, but tonight I'm going to give you some stuff you can take home, some jokes. Would you like to hear them?
Yeah.
Well, I'll start off with something that actually happened to me. I was walking down the street at Meisner Park in Boca, and this lady comes walking down the street with a French poodle. And I said, "That's the ugliest pig I've ever seen." And she says, "Excuse me." I said, "French poodle." I said, "I was talking to the poodle."
Nice.
So I get on a bus the other day, and there's a kid in there, and he's a young kid, and he's got yellow hair, green hair, red hair, and catches my eye, and I keep looking at him, keeps catching me, looking at him, and after a while, he gets pissed off, and he turns around, and he goes, "What's your fucking problem?" And I go, "Nothing, man, no offense." I said, 20 years ago, I fucked a parrot. I thought you were my son.
Nice.
So a lady gets on a bus with a kid, and the bus driver looks at her, and she says, "That kid's a hideous looking kid, the ugliest kid I've ever seen." So she walks to the back of the bus and she says, "You see what that guy said to me?" He says, "No." She goes, "He just offended me, the worst offense I've ever had in my life." He says, "Then you should get up there to the front of the bus and you should give him a piece of your mind." She says, "You think so?" He says, "Yeah, go ahead, I'll hold your monkey." So a lady calls up the doctor's office in a really deep voice. She says, "Doctor, these hormone pills, you're not agreeing with me." He says, "Don't worry about the deep voice, it'll go away in a week or two." She says, "I'm not talking about my deep voice." He says, "Then what's the problem?" She says, "I got hair growing down my chest." He says, "There's hair growing down your chest?" She says, "Yeah." He says, "How far down?" She says, "Down to my balls."
Whoa. That's good.
This guy with a black eye gets on the train, and he notices another guy with a black eye. And he says, "Hey, how'd you get your black eye?" He goes, "Oh, it was a little slip of the tongue." He goes, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Well, when I went to go get my ticket, the lady had big breasts. So I said to her, I'd like to get 2 tickets to Pittsburgh." She punched me in the eye. He says, "Wow." He goes, "How'd you get your black eye?" He goes, "Mine was a little slip of the tongue as well. This morning at breakfast, I meant to say to my wife, 'Can I have a bowl of cereal, hon?' And instead I said, 'I hate your fucking guts, you ruined my life.'" So,
We've all done that.
no, we haven't.
Yeah, we have.
Not gonna argue with it. So this guy goes into a psychiatrist's office. Psychiatrist says, "What's the problem?" He says, "No one pays attention to me." He says, "Next." So an Indian chief is walking with his son, and the son turns to the chief and says, "Father, how is it that I got my name?" He says, "When your mother and I wanted to have a child, we made love under the glistening moon. When your sister was born, we named her Glistening Moon." So, all right. So they walk a little bit further. He says, "Father, how is it that my brother got his name?" He says, "Well, when your mother and I wanted to have another child, we made love by the running brook. When your brother was born, we named him Running Brook." All right. They walk a little bit further, and the father turns to the son. He says, "Why do you ask, broken rubber?" Why do you ask, broken rubber? So this, the doorbell rings in this whorehouse. The lady opens the door and there's a man standing there with no arms and no legs. And he says, "I want 3 of your finest women for 2 days. I don't care what it costs." She goes, "Are you kidding me? You have no arms and no legs. What the hell can you do?" He says, "How do you think I rang the bell?"
Nice.
So this guy gets a knock on the door one day. He opens the door. There's a snail on his front porch. So he takes the snail and he throws it as far as he can. A year later, he gets another knock on the door. He opens the door. There's the snail. He says, "What the fuck was that all about?" So this turtle gets mugged by 3 snails. And the cops come and take the report. And they said, "Do you remember anything about this incident?" He says, "I don't know. It happened so fast." So this guy with a speech impediment walks into a peanut store. And he says, "Excuse me, mister. I'm much of your almonds." He says, "My almonds are $32 a pound." He says, "That's high." He says, "How much are your pistachio nuts?" "My pistachio nuts are also $32 a pound." He says, "That's high too." He says, "Well, thanks anyway for not making fun of the way I talk." The guy says, "That's quite all right. I want to thank you for not making fun of my big nose." He goes, "Oh, that's your nose?" He says, "Because I thought it was your dick, because your nuts are so high." Thank you very much. So I bumped into a friend of mine recently and I said, "How you doing?" He goes, "Unbelievable. Unbelievable. I just bought a hearing aid. It cost me $10,000. It's the best move I ever made in my life. I've been missing out on many, many things. And now I can hear them because I bought this hearing aid." I said, $10,000? Are you out of your mind? He says, "It's the best hearing aid in the world." I said, "What kind is it?" He says, "quarter to 3. So the same guy with the speech impediment is walking down the street, he sees his friend and he says, "Hey, how you been?" He says, "Not good." He says, "I just came out of the hospital." He says, "Hospital? What happened?" He says, "I had a prostate operation." He goes, "Prostate? What's that?" He says, "I pee like you talk." That's my time, guys. Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.